Okay, so this weekend was really frustrating because for a couple of reasons, actually. First reason was Friday, we went to one of my friends and we had campfire and we hung out, we had a couple beer and just chilled. And I ended up feeling very ignored and unimportant because I was hanging out with a specific person. And this person has a tendency to, when we're in the middle of speaking, having a conversation with each other, just like totally getting distracted, and somebody else will start saying something not even to them and completely divert their attention away from me to this other person. And so I just was feeling very, and it happened not once but multiple times, and I was just feeling very unimportant, like my words and my opinions didn't matter, and it was very frustrating in the moment. And I sat down and thought about it later and just kind of like, this is the same old, we've played this old song and dance for so long that I don't know why I expected anything else. And B, it's pretty freaking clear that this person isn't doing anything to rectify the situation or to work on it, or, like it's just meh, doesn't matter to them. And so that was really frustrating. Then I ended up doing mushrooms that night. And I didn't do enough to like trip out and get high or anything. But I did enough apparently just to kickstart the anxiety. So I went down the anxiety train on Friday after I got home and ended up spending like an hour in the shower trying to breathe and get back into my body and kind of like figure out what this is trying to show me, what this is trying to teach me. And I learned some stuff about myself, and it was great. I think it threw me off though, because I wasn't expecting that reaction. Like it just was so out of the blue. Because normally when I do that amount, it has me feeling calm and collected and just chill, like I'm okay and I can breathe and, all of this stuff. So it just kind of like it hit me and it came out of the blue and I struggled with it for a bit. So then Saturday we had friends come over to play the board game that we got, and we had to teach them how to play it because they'd never played it before. And it was another case of being talked over and interrupted constantly by one specific person. And again, just feeling like, and I was getting so frustrated with them. Like, just stop. Please just stop interrupting me. And then I felt bad because then I was getting angry in front of my friends. I'm in the middle of learning right now what to say, when to say it, to stand up for myself. And I think Saturday I ended up getting to the point where I'm just not like, I have to say something because this is a consistent pattern. Like this is something that happens all the time. And sorry your weekend theme was a lack of respect for you. Those days are hard. So I've learned I am not going to teach anybody anything when I have to teach them with this specific person because my words just don't matter and I could just not be there and it would be totally fine. My presence isn't important. That's what I was trying to say. That's how I was feeling. So there's my vent that we were coming from with the not being heard and seen. My wife gets that way too sometimes. I try and like find ways to enable her to speak up if she's feeling too sheepish to stand up. Oh, I see. Okay. It's important to me to make sure she has her voice heard without seeming intent. Yeah, and that's something that I'm learning right now too, is like you don't have to lose your shit and scream and yell to have your voice heard or to feel like, to defend yourself. But I think what my issue is I let it build and I let it build and I let it continue happening until I can no longer keep my mouth shut about it. And then at that point, I'm like at the breaking point for myself and I'm so angry, and I mean, it's not like I don't say anything though. Like I let this person know this is frustrating me. Can you stop, please? But it just keeps happening. And so that it ends up getting to a breaking point for me, Does that make sense? As long as you're willing to share that load with her, I think that is so supportive. Almost got front stuck, so you can guess how my weekend went.
Front stuck. a term used by somebody who has dissociative identity disorder. An alter, who is a person the brain creates to cope with trauma, is stuck in control of the body and cannot be switched out, often for hours, days, weeks, or months.
Scary to go out when you get front stuck because you won't know who shows up and who you'll get to meet. Yeah, I can imagine that would be pretty scary. I could really imagine. Is it like a sense of being out of control, like not having any control over what happens? Who you talk to, where you go, you know, the things that you do? Because I think about that sometimes. So for myself, not being able to control what's coming out of my mouth or the people that I'm surrounding myself with, or, you know, the places that I go. Like, I don't want to liken your situation to what, like, being blackout drunk or too high on drugs or something, you know, like losing control of myself. But to be honest, that's kind of how I'm understanding what it's like to be stuck with a front, you know? Or front stuck, sorry. Is that you just have no idea what you're doing. You have no control over yourself, and that seems very scary to me. You won't have a clue what goes on even if you come to until someone lets you know, or if a note is left for you. It's more like you're there but you're not. I can see why that would have you feeling like you needed to stay in your safe space, right? Or do you happen to understand why a couple of your alters can co-front at the same time, but you can't co-front with an alter? If you know what I mean, does that make sense? I can co-con with someone I'm in a constant relationship with, or if I have that sort of connection, and this happens when the alter is scared to talk, or if I face some sort of high-level triggers. Okay, so you can then. Okay, that makes sense. Yeah, I can sympathize with that with anxiety disorder to an extent. So like feeling like your anxiety has taken the wheel, is in control of what's happening now, and you don't have much of a say. My anxiety is a huge barrier for me in a real life setting. I physically cannot go outside sometimes or go into a shop, for instance, because my anxiety stops me and controls what I do. I often make plans with the best intentions, and then my anxiety disorder just goes, dude, no, you can't. Go home and hide. I have not had a severe anxiety disorder like that where it's physically stopped me from being able to do things. But my anxiety has gotten to a point where I'll have panic attacks while doing things, because I'll be super anxious about it and I won't want to do it, but I'll make myself do it, and then while I'm doing it, have a panic attack. Not a super severe panic attack, but like the hyperventilating, heavy, like rigid body yelling, because my panic tends to come out as anger at times. I've found it exhausting and so hard to push myself to do the things that I have anxiety about. Couldn't imagine how it feels to have it completely stop you in your tracks, you know, and keep you from doing this thing. Like there's just no feeling of being able to push through it at all. I've gotten better than I used to be, like massively so, but yeah, it can sometimes be a struggle. I feel lucky for the most part that it doesn't happen as often anymore. You guys are so talented. Wish I can be like you guys too. We all have our own talents. We all have things that we're really, really good at, things that we're mediocre at, and things that we just fucking suck at. It's just a matter of finding what your talents are. So I actually, now that you say that, I'm of the belief that every single person on this planet experiences something on the anxiety spectrum, the depression spectrum, ruminating thoughts or insomnia, you know, stuff like this. I think what the issue is a lot of people lack the empathy and the emotional awareness and just would rather stay ignorant to these things than gain an understanding of where it's coming from, you know, what other people deal with when it comes to these things. I mean, I don't know that I would ever wish on my worst enemy that they could feel just how powerless that I felt, or insecure at times, or hurt, or like the depths of my pain. My only talent is getting triggered, having panic attacks, forgetting things, and too anxious to talk to people at the best level possible. All of the things that you just described, plus some other really, really shitty, crappy things, I used them as fuel for my fire. I turned them around, and I'm doing my very best to work on them and heal those things. And I'm using the pain that I know from those things and the empathy and compassion that I've gained from those experiences. And I'm taking all of this and I'm turning it into a platform to help other people so that they can know that they're not alone, that somebody out there understands on the deepest level the pain that they're feeling and what they're going through. So I've turned all of those things into a talent, into a skill set.